if you want to extend battery lifespan on POCO F7 Pro, here's what you can do. So there are a couple of things that we can do on this phone. First, we're gonna go to the settings and we want to choose battery. Now in this phone, most of these things these improvements of battery life can be done pretty much in these battery settings. And the first thing that we can do is go to battery protection. You should use one of these two options. You cannot use both of them anyway, so you should use one or the other. If you use smart charging protection, then the system will learn how you charge your device and stop charging when battery level reaches 80% in applicable situations. So not always and not immediately, but after some time it will learn how you use your phone. So for example, if you leave your phone charging at night, then of course the phone will eventually pick that up and it will restrict charging the battery to 80% because 80% is like the optimal percentage for the battery to keep it for as long as possible. However, you can also use the battery protection over here, which pretty much limits the battery charging to 80%. So if you charge your phone and the battery reaches 80%, the charging stops. Now the reason why it is 80% is because this is how batteries are actually built for smartphones nowadays, which means that if you aim at the perfect percentage, it is not actually 100% but 80%. This allows you to restrict the drainage or slow down the process of battery aging, which of course includes the battery health over here. So by the way, you can also check the battery health here in the future just to check and monitor how is it going with the battery. And if you want to keep the optimal percentage of the battery on your phone, you are aiming at 20% as well, because at 20%, once your battery reaches 20%, then you want to start charging your phone. Obviously, there are situations where you cannot really do that. So even if you drop to 15% or maybe 10% from time to time, it doesn't really matter that much unless you do this all the time, of course. And the same goes with charging over 80%. If you are in a situation where it is inconvenient for you to keep the battery at 80% and you actually want to charge to the 100%, then of course, from time to time, you can easily do that without any negative side effects or something. You should be fine, or actually the battery should be fine. However, if possible, try to restrict yourself to any of these options. Now, of course, this is the main thing that we can do. Besides that, we can also go to additional features and we can, for example, use the 5G battery saver. It is recommended to use it because 5G, well, we pretty much use 5G all the time. So it is recommended to save the battery with this battery saver. There's also the cold endurance mode, which limits device performance to extend battery life in cold environments. Unfortunately, it is not specified what is exactly considered a cold environment, when it is actually cold and when it's not. But I guess we can still use it if you are, certain that you are actually living in an area where it is generally cold. So you can use it to keep the battery in a healthy state. So besides that, there is also the wired charging mode, and some people believe that fast charging option ruins the battery after some time. So if you feel like this as well, then of course we can switch to the standard speed instead in order to keep the battery for as long as possible. And we also have the battery saver, of course. The battery saver is definitely a good way to extend the battery lifespan, especially in a specific situation in a moment, right? So when you are in a situation where you have not many percentage left of the battery, for example, like 30%, but you want to be able to charge your phone for a long time, it is recommended to use the battery saver. And in critical situations, you can also use the ultra battery saver that really extends the remaining time until 0% of the battery. As you can see over here, we can get, in my case, 62 hours in total. So pretty cool. But of course, it has some drawbacks. More precisely, if you use the ultra battery saver, then of course you don't have access to most of the apps. You only have the access to several selected apps, and you limit your phone to only basic functions, right? And of course, you don't have to use the battery saver all the time. Like I said, this is just for like critical situations, but it definitely helps you to extend the battery lifespan. Now, the most important thing I believe about the optimization of battery is the battery checkup that we can do from time to time, like once in a while. But it is also a good way to find out what can be done to improve the battery life, because over here we are informed that we can adjust brightness automatically, so we can turn on automatic brightness, which definitely saves the battery. We can also close apps that are draining, that drain the battery. Besides that, some of these suggestions can also be helpful, like for example the dark mode, lower screen refresh rate, clearing memory 10 minutes after locking the device, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, the list is quite huge, so you can adapt the phone to these suggestions. But of course, at the same time, you don't have to agree to everything. You can select one by one what you actually want to use. For example, if you prefer to use 120 Hz of screen refresh rate, you shouldn't really limit yourself, because, well, what's the point of having this feature if you don't use it at all? So it's up to you what you actually want to use, what you want to implement. You don't have to agree to everything. And essentially, once you are done with checking out this list, then you can press this add button in order to improve the battery. And that is essentially it. Thanks for watching, leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and see you in my next videos. Bye!